Hoosier Nation, what's up? The week that was, Indiana goes 3-0 since the last time we spoke. Indiana beat Sam Houston. They beat Miami of Ohio and got their first Big Ten win, beating Minnesota by 15. And so, really, just kind of thinking about talking about the week that was in Indiana basketball. Last time we talked to you, um, our friend and often Don at Burke, we were in the doldrums, right? Indiana had just come off of Battle for Atlantis. We were in a really bad place, and I don't know that we're out of that dark place, and we'll talk about that here. I'm going to be going it alone this week. Ben is, Battle for Atlantis hit him really hard, so I think we'll have him back for Nebraska coming up on Friday night. We'll have him back in the saddle, but let's talk about the week that was for Indiana. Beating Sam Houston. So coming back from Battle for Atlantis, beating Sam Houston. And I thought that Indiana played really well in this game. Beat Sam Houston, a team that probably should challenge for the Conference USA Championship, 97-71. And some things that stood out for that game. I think this was the Luke Goody game, right? Indiana really needed him to start to make shots, and he did. He was, 5 of 7 from three-pointer. I thought he just played. That was his best game of the Hoosier by far, and even after the two games we'll talk about here in a bit, still his best game. And thought that Miles Rice bounced back a little bit, having a bad effort really in Battle for Atlantis. Malik Renew had a nice game. Just probably, one of Indiana's best games, if not the best game of the year. The overall performance. I don't think Indiana's put together a a full 40-minute effort to this point. But this was one that was close, and in terms of get 40-minute effort, definitely wasn't close on the scoreboard. One thing that was concerning in this game was Trey Galloway's performance. He had multiple turnovers, 4 turnovers, just 3 points, 19 minutes. He really struggled. Kanan Carlisle didn't play due to injury. He did come back against Minnesota. We'll get to that in a little bit. But Anthony Leal played well in 25 minutes. I thought just a floor game overall. He had 4 assists, didn't turn the ball over, played really well. And I think that's what Indiana's going to have is somebody to step up on a night to night basis. And Bryson Tucker's that guy for me. Against Sam Houston, he had 8 points. 3 assists, no turnovers, 28 minutes for Bryson Tucker. I think he is going to, and when we talk about the Minnesota game, not so much Miami of Ohio. I don't think that was our best game either, but uh, that's a guy that I feel like is going to say one of these struggling guards, I'm taking your minutes. Quite frankly, I'm going to take your minutes and I'm going to do something with them. And I felt that Bryson Tucker played really well. Is playing well, and he's a freshman. He's a 5-star, all that, but he is somebody that I think Indiana is going to be able to rely on as we move forward. Um, the next game, Miami of Ohio. I don't think Indiana played overly well in this game. It's a 15 or excuse me, a 19-point win on the scoreboard. And if you look at this is Mackenzie Mbako, maybe his worst game as a Indiana Hoosier, certainly his worst game of this season. And Trey Galloway bounced back in this one. He had 13 points. 2 assists, only 1 turnover, 30 minutes. So, maybe Trey was feeling the effects of Atlantis. I don't know when he came back, but uh, this was one that, I don't know what it is. And, and doing this one solo, this is where I would bring Ben in and say, what's going on at Assembly Hall? There's not a lot of energy there. And maybe it's the schedule. Maybe it was the performance in Atlantis. One thing I do want to touch on is Mike Woodson getting booed. Um, I think it's pretty clear that I'm not a huge Mike Woodson fan at this point in time in my fandom, but I don't think we really need to go down the road of booing the guy and home. Let's not do that. I get it. Like we can take the podcast, we can take the social media, we can say the things we want to say, but let's not, embarrass a guy that's a legend, quite frankly, at Indiana University by booing. And I know that's not going to do anybody any good. Like Mike Woodson's the coach, and we'll see what happens after this season and beyond. But I think that's just, below board. I don't necessarily disagree with if you're a fan, you pay for a ticket, you want to boo poor performance or lack of effort. I think at the professional level, it's probably okay. at the collegiate level. I guess you could say this is almost a professional level. Like I don't really care. Just I don't know. I don't think it does anything for anybody. So just let's just get that out of the way now. We heard it all 3 games, quite frankly, on the homestand. It's students mostly, I think, that are doing that, and I mean they're going to do what they're going to do. But ultimately, that's something that I think that's not going to make a difference, right? Of whether Mike Woodson is the coach in 2025, 26 or not, whether you boot him or not. So let's support the team. We can rip him here on the Hoosier Court Pod, but let's not go that route. Back to the game against Miami, Ohio. I thought uh, we talked about Bryson Tucker really good in the Sam Houston game. Not so much. He struggled in the Miami Ohio game, but quite frankly, a lot of guys did. Umar Ballo, 18 rebounds in this one. Really strong performance from Umar, and Rice again, a nice back-to-back game. Renew, another nice back-to-back game. We already mentioned Galloway and Luke Goody, another strong performance for him off the bench. Outside of that, there's not really much coming off the bench. One thing I have noticed, Langdon Hatton, and I'm not saying that he, deserves to play or deserves to play a lot, but I felt like he gave Indiana some energy and some good minutes in in Atlantis. I'm one of the few guys that actually felt like he gave a crap, and he's not getting any minutes. I don't know that he needs to, but I just um, I feel like his effort is probably worth 8 to 10 minutes, and I think getting 2 minutes, that's kind of a slap on him. If you're gonna play a guy 2 minutes, don't play him. In my opinion, I've got a friend of mine I remember in our high school game when his dad accosted the coach because they put him in with 30 seconds left in the game and he usually played almost the entire game. So I don't know what the coach was doing there. Send a mess. Don't embarrass a guy like that. Like, whatever. I'd like to see Hatton get a little bit of run. Maybe it's just that Ballo and Renew were doing so well. Maybe it means nothing, or maybe he's just a try hard and we like to think that he plays hard. I don't know that how much talent he has, but I think there's something to be said on this team. If you follow the Pacers, you know, don't get me started on that bunch, but they don't try. They don't care. And I get it. They're pros. And I think there's nights that this Indiana basketball team, I don't know that they care all that much. And that's concerning. And Woodson addressed it before the before the Minnesota game. And I think that it's something that it just I don't know how you cannot give effort, maximum effort on a night to night basis uh, at Indiana University playing basketball on scholarship with the NIL dollars being spent, the salary you're being paid to not play hard. I mentioned the Pacers, all right, that it's a whole nother world, but this is a privilege to be able to play at Indiana. And I think that, you know, one trend that's concerning is when you got guys that aren't playing hard, that falls back on the coach many times, in my opinion. And I think that a common theme you see with the Pacers and the Hoosiers is they have a coach that's been around a little while with the same roster, and maybe they're not hearing that voice the way they once did, right? So you take Carlisle with the Pacers, you take Woodson with the Hoosiers, and I feel like some of that message is not getting through, or they don't care, or it's the opponent. You know, do they just show up and say, "Hey, we're going to beat Sam Houston. We're going to beat Miami of Ohio," and Hummel and many other analysts have pointed this out all over social media as the defensive rotations that Indiana continues to have poor communication on. Like, um, that's a problem, and it's going to be a problem as we get into Big Ten. I noticed it in the Minnesota game, and maybe we'll transition to Indiana beat Minnesota, go 3-0 since the last time we spoke to you, 82-67. But on multiple occasions, I noticed miscommunication. We'd make a switch, and then we'd not make a switch, and then the guy's running across and a wide open three. And when you're playing Purdue, that's going in. When you're playing Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan State, those shots are going in. Minnesota's not very good, and Indiana beat them as such. They beat them by 15. That game could have been anywhere from 20, 25. And this was the Bryson Tucker game. I think this was the game that going back to some of the opening comments where Bryson Tucker kind of said, I'm taking somebody's minutes. And I don't know if it's Galloway. Rice was not good. He got a little dinged up there against Minnesota. I don't necessarily know what happened there, but um, Bryson Tucker's got raw talent and skill. He can get to the rim. Shots not all that great, but I don't know that this team really needs him to be shooting threes. He's probably as good of a 3-point shooter as Trey Galloway is, and quite frankly, if Trey Galloway keeps turning the ball over the way he is, you got to look at giving some of those minutes to Tucker. He got 20 minutes against Minnesota last night. So I think that is a positive. A biggest positive probably was Kane and Carlisle being back in the lineup, giving Indiana 22 minutes, um, 14 points, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. Like they need this kid to be good, to be a solid contributor. We can't have the starting backcourt with 3 points in a Big Ten game and expect to win very often. That's maybe one of the few. It just seems like a common theme over and over and over again for Indiana. And yes, they're 8-2. Yes, they've got a couple of decent wins on the year, and they've beaten 6 teams that pretty much anybody could beat. Let's be honest. So there's a lot left to be desired. But if this team wants to reach its full potential, is there going to be that point where they finally can mesh and start to play together? And I think getting into conference play is gonna help with that. But you got Nebraska coming up in Lincoln, and say what you want about Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg, but they've consistently beaten Indiana regularly for a better part of the last decade. Um, and go into Lincoln for any team in any year. That's not an easy place to play. It'll be rocking on a Friday night, national television, Fox game, 8 p.m. Nebraska's beaten Creighton on the road at Creighton this year, so they're certainly capable. But against Minnesota, and I think that's where we'll spend the bulk of the time here, is that uh, Umar Ballo again, 18, Malik Renew, really good 3-game homestand for Malik. I felt like he's getting, over that right shoulder a bit with the left hand, and it seems like, things are going well for him. He's not getting into foul trouble 32 minutes against Minnesota. Like Indiana needs him on the floor. Ballo, 31 minutes. I did see they're really trying to alternate those guys and get a good stretch of run with one big on the floor with an Mbako or Goody at the 4. And they seem to play well when that happens. So maybe that continues depending on matchups. I know it's something that Hoosier Nation has wanted to see, but this was the Bryson Tucker come out game. 16 points, 6 rebounds, 20 minutes, 6 of 10 from the floor. Um, I thought he looked really good. His best game as a Hoosier. Luke Goody, not so much on this game, but 2 of 3 for him on the homestand. So a lot there. We kind of gotten off track here doing game after game after game. So wanted to do a little summary and recap, but we'll get back in the fold with Nebraska. So as we move to the Nebraska game, what is this Indiana team? Indiana's sitting here 8-2 on the year, and I don't think anybody really knows what type of team Indiana has. People say, oh, they got a lot of new players. But look at Kentucky, right? I mean, they're playing great, great win in Seattle against Gonzaga. Their team's entirely brand new with a brand new coach, and it seems like he's getting the most out of them. They're putting 90 points up on the board, so it can be done. But you got to have energy. You got to have leadership. You got to have what it takes. And I don't know that this Indiana team does. And I think, the last time we talked is about moving forward with somebody else as the coach next year. And I mean, I don't know where this ends up, right? But I don't feel like on many occasions that this Indiana team is ready to play. And they may very well go to Nebraska and win, right? And they may very well beat Chattanooga and Winthrop, right? And again, those are teams that you hear on Selection Sunday consistently. So let's not get it twisted here. Chattanooga and Winthrop are teams that you do hear on Selection Sunday. So like this schedule I'm interested to look at it when we get to Selection Sunday, and we'll say like, oh, Sam Houston, they're in their conference championship game. A Chattanooga, a Winthrop, a Miami of Ohio don't really know what they'll do in the MAC. It seems like this UNC Greensboro, Eastern Illinois, like some of these teams, I'll be interested to see if we fast forward this. So let's play this 3 months from now. Are these teams that net rankings looking better? And maybe Woodson was playing chess when we thought he was playing checkers with this schedule. But let's be honest, Indiana's 12-2. If they have any aspirations at all, they need to go to Nebraska and get a win. Period, point blank. A wise man once said, period, point blank, they got to go to Nebraska and get a win and win convincingly on the road so that people can put them back in the conversation to say, hey, Indiana's 2-0 in the Big Ten. If they beat Chattanooga and Winthrop, and quite frankly, Rutgers at home, that puts you 12-2 going to the Palestra, right, to play Penn State. You don't have to go to Happy Valley. It's almost a neutral site game. So, like, it's not all doom and gloom, but I don't even really know when a test is going to come for this team until they, play at Iowa potentially. Know how good they are. USC at home. Like you see this. This is like the Indiana football schedule. I mean, the schedule is what it is. But this Indiana basketball team is not beating teams like the football team. Shout out Kurt Signetti, by the way, playing Notre Dame next Friday night. That's going to be awesome to behold. And shout out to all you folks with the reversible Notre Dame Indiana jackets. I've always had the Indiana jacket. I've never been a big Notre Dame fan, so football fan, so I don't have anything to worry about there. But yeah, I don't know where this Indiana team goes. And, this is really just me rambling for about 20 minutes or so here at you, but these are just my unbridled thoughts of like, are we going to get down to the end of the season and we're looking and like, where are the quality wins coming from? They're all going to have to come from the conference. Nebraska, this is a huge game for Indiana. Like, this is an absolute must win for their resume, in my opinion, because winning games on the road in the Big Ten is not going to be easy. But I think getting wins is the most important thing. And if you have 20 plus wins on Selection Sunday from the Big Ten and you didn't, embarrass yourself all that much, you're probably going to get in. So, the magic number is 13 more. I think they probably, with this schedule, got to win 21 games going in the Big Ten tournament to feel good. Because inherently you're going to get some wins. I think I originally said that they'd be 24-7 and win the Big Ten. Ugh, not feeling great about that prediction, but this is another thing. Like, does anybody? I hate to even be this way, but I don't really actually enjoy watching this team. It just seems like a real tough. And I know people will probably say, "Well, then don't watch the damn games, Geoff. Then why do you have a podcast about Indiana basketball?" Well, it's in my blood. It ain't gonna change. But I don't enjoy the type of basketball. I just want to see guys play hard, and I want to see them get up and down the court. I want to see them shoot threes. I want to see them get easy baskets. I don't want everything to be difficult. Everything doesn't have to be a high ball screen, right? And just hope to throw a lob to Ballo. Like that's not Trace Jackson Davis. I think we had a possession against Minnesota. Let's cool it with the lobs off the backboard. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't get that. Like, let's play within ourselves. So Indiana's got, yes, they came back from Atlantis and they won 3 games, and they won 3 games, 26, 19, and 15. Sounds like anybody's going to be upset about that. And you're 1-0 in the Big Ten. But this Nebraska game, and again, how many times have we said this Nebraska game is very pivotal? I just flash back to 9 months ago, not even, where Nebraska pretty much put the nail in the coffin twice to Indiana last year. Like, we owe them, but it ain't going to be easy. So, I'm not going to pretend to say I've got an advanced scout on Nebraska, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're going to get up and down the floor and they're going to shoot threes. Um, and if you let them get rolling and get hot, they've already won at Creighton. I think they've got a couple bad losses on the resume, but getting a road win in conference is going to be key before, Indiana comes back around the holiday break, right? With Chattanooga and Winthrop kind of sandwiched in there. And then you got a good Rutgers team, I think, coming to to Bloomington, and you owe them too. Like, we got to stop losing to the Nebraskas and the Rutgers and the Penn States. I mean, and we beat Minnesota, I think, 10 in a row. Like, what an opportunity. What an opportunity that Indiana has in front of them to play Minnesota, Nebraska, Rutgers, Penn State, and USC at home to start the conference. This team should be 5-0 in the conference. Let's be honest. Anything less than 4-1 is unacceptable. Like, these are teams that you should beat. There's no Michigan State on the schedule there. There's no Wisconsin. There's no Purdue. There's no Michigan on the schedule to start the Big Ten. The Big Ten has done Mike Woodson a favor. They've put them in a position that, even if Rutgers is a good team, it's in Bloomington. Even if USC is a good team, it's in Bloomington, right? At Penn State. We just saw what happened to Purdue up there. You don't have to go there. You're going to a more neutral site game. I get it's in Philadelphia, but there will be a lot of IU fans there, I'm sure, as well. So you're really not tested by the blue bloods of the Big Ten, if you will, and for the first 5 league games. Like, you have to get off to a fast start. Indiana can't get in this slog of a 1-1, and then you're 2-2, and then you're 3-4, and then you're 5-6, and no. Like, if you want to make any impact in this league, you have to start fast. And what an opportunity that Indiana has in front of them on national TV in Lincoln, Nebraska on Friday night. And I hope that we'll have Ben back on Friday night. We'll probably get one up for you on Saturday. No college football there outside of Army Navy, so we'll have a nice time to get that together. But it's good to get back with all of you. It's good to talk about wins. I don't know where this season goes. I'm not sold that this is a good team, but they're 8-2. I think you'll take that. But Indiana needs, and I've said it 20 times now, they have to win this game in Nebraska. Not a must win for the season, but it's a must win to be taken seriously, quite frankly, to get back in the conversation of hey, this is a team we need to be able to watch out for, because you can't tell me that Ballo and Renew and Mbako, from a talent perspective, they need to dominate these guys, right? Bryson Tucker, more talent than anybody Nebraska probably has on their roster. Trey Galloway, you're a 5th-year senior. You played 140 games at Indiana or so, or will by the time you're done. Stop turning the damn ball over. Make the right decision. Make the pass. Be able to hold on the ball. Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, be the players we wanted you to be we're 10 games in now. We cannot sit here and make excuses of, they're learning how to play. We don't have time for that. That time is over, right? You had your bad week in Atlantis. Don't have another one. They're probably going to have another one. Don't have 5 of them, right? Big Ten, it's going to happen, but Indiana's got a great, we just laid it out. We just laid out the path for Indiana to start the Big Ten hot. And if we're 5 games into the league and Indiana's 2-3, you can kiss the baby on this season. You can kiss the baby on a Big Ten championship, probably a tournament berth. They have to start fast. The path is there. You can't have a slip up against a Chattanooga. You can't have a slip up against a Winthrop. Again, I won't pretend to act like I know anything about those teams, but this is there. Because Mike Woodson has 21 to 24 games probably to prove he deserves an extension, because it's year 4. So after year 4, you either extend or you don't. And if you don't, we know what the answer is. They'll be moving on. And if they're moving on from Mike Woodson, that means they didn't make the tournament and they're going to go another direction. And there may be some of you out there that say, I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. A lot of people out there had a hell of a win last night, and it was fun to watch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. There's a lot of people out there say, tank for draft picks. The hell with that. I'm getting too old. I enjoyed watching that last night. I want to watch good games. I will never root against Indiana, and I would ask all of you not to do that. Root for them to win. Anybody listening to this is probably where you went to school or your family went to school there. There's nobody on this planet that wants Mike Woodson to succeed more than me. I want to be wrong. The people I talk to friends and family. I want them to all be wrong. I don't think all of us are wrong, but I think we can also root for the team and also be realistic about the future of the program. Right? We can support the guys, we can support the coach, but we can also be realistic about if you want to get into the upper echelon, if you want to be one of the elites again, um, there's probably a new direction. Like Mike Woodson, uh, if you're out there listening, I'm sure you are. Like treat this like it's everything to you. I'm not sure he does. Maybe that's in him somewhere. It doesn't show to me. What I've heard is not. I don't feel like he eats, sleeps, and breathes Indiana basketball. He might, but maybe what that looks like to you and I may not be what it looks like to Mike Woodson. So, Mike, why don't you do us all a favor? Let's start our weekend off right. Let's get a win at Nebraska. Do it for me. Do it for the listeners. Do it for Hoosier Nation. Do it for all of us so we can take a damn ride and we head into IU football playoff. I mean, are you kidding me? We're talking Indiana football playoffs. I mean, what a great opportunity Indiana football has in front of them next Friday night. And then, hey, let's beat Notre Dame and then let's beat Chattanooga like a damn drum right before the holidays, right before Santa sticks his ass down that chimney, right? So, everybody, have a great week. We'll talk to you this weekend. Let's go, Hoosiers.